Hey, welcome to Dan's Model Works, and this is Dan
Natasha.
and this is part 2 of our father-daughter parallel build. This is not a competition, and we're each building a T-Bird. I'm building a 71 T-Bird.
And I'm building a 58 T-Bird.
Yep, and this is definitely the way better kit. This is an AMT, and this is a
monogram.
So, if you, hopefully you have already watched the first episode of this series, you'll know that I got off to a slow start. One of the problems that I've encountered with mine is a lack of front suspension parts. If you have put in the comments, hey, you know what you should do, we're not ignoring you. The fact of the matter is we're recording this in mid-November because we wanted to have most of the series done before we put it up because we didn't know how slow or tardy we would be in getting it done. So we're just going to go over what we've kind of done since the last episode. So here's Natasha.
So really the only thing I've done right now is I've started painting my seats. So I decided to go with a blue interior with a cream outside. So lighter blue in the middle of the seats, medium blue on the outside. I also did that for inside or the back seat. I can't remember if I should or not, but the wheels are on now too.
Yeah, I don't think you had the wheels on last time. Here, we'll flip it over.
Yeah, so that's what it.
And we had an issue with the wheels too, right?
Yeah, it was kind of like I needed Dad's help. It was, um, it's kind of hard to see, but it's like I found it challenging to get all the little pieces in there, all glued together and then touching it up and, getting it all in place.
Yeah, although remember they were floppy. Well, the rear ones still aren't glued in place, but the front ones,
they're glued in place now.
The front ones kind of really towed out. They didn't really sit on there firmly. So Natasha super glued them in place so that they were rigidly mounted. So I haven't done anything. This is still exactly the way you saw it last time. Now, we've talked it over, and I think what we're going to do is I'm going to scratch build a bunch of front suspension parts based on what we see here from a Ford Torino. Okay, so I'm going to be scratch building the tie rod here and the sway bars and things like that. Whether or not the 71 had a sway bar assembly that was as elaborate as the mid-70s one, I don't know. But I figure it's better than just going with this, which is basically nothing. So that's kind of going to be one of my first challenges because, I mean, really, I got to get moving on my underside here because I'm quite well behind Natasha. So before I start adding anything to this, I need to figure out just how things are going to fit together because I don't want anything to interfere. So if I just take the engine, and it just seems to rattle around in here, I don't think I'm really going to be hitting anything here. And I'll just make sure that my sway bars kind of come up at an angle that they don't hit the front of the oil pan or the oil filter there. And you can see that this is the hole that the metal axle is supposed to go through. I was thinking about putting a plastic bushing in there and just using part of the metal axle going into this big beefy structure here. But you know what? This is approximately where the wheel is going to have to go. It's right about here. I think I might just end up putting a bit of an angle on that so that it matches the angle that's here and just gluing that on like that. That looks like the easiest and most structurally stable solution. That way I'm not worried about having an axle going through. It doesn't matter to me whether or not these wheels are rolling or anything like that. So, and I keep on being amazed at how primitive this kit is. There's no backings for these wheels. You just push them on from behind and that's it. See, if we look here, stock wheels. Just push it in, you're done. and there's no extra step, it just goes on the metal axles from there. Very basic assembly with this thing. So I've done some cleanup on this cross member thing here. And on the left, I haven't done anything to that. On the right, you can see I've basically removed all of this triangular piece here. That's all been removed because, as I've said before, these outer parts, they're supposed to be the lower suspension arms coming out, and I do have some pieces that are going to be glued onto the end of them. So there should be a pivot right here. And then this piece should have another bit coming up. Like there's the cross member should be a big heavy looped piece of metal. Sometimes it's known as the K member. And then your front suspension arms come off of it. So if we look inside, you can see how much has been removed here. And I still have to remove the same amount over here. So there's both sides of that cleaned out. So I've glued some extensions onto these parts here, which represent the lower suspension arms. And I think before I do any more assembly on this, Natasha and I were looking at the front end of this, and if I clip it together, when you look down through in front of the radiator shroud here, the radiator core support, all you can see is plastic down there. Of course, on the real car, other than the parts that go forward to the rear or to the front structure, you should be able to see the ground. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove a lot of this material here, and that'll make the whole thing a lot more open. So you can see I've opened up this area, and when we look down through the hood, we'll be able to see the ground. Now, the radiator support, I'm going to be doing more work on that later, because that's still way more beefy than it should be, but at least I've got most of what I need done to the floor pan. So this is the grand total of what I've added to the underside here. We have a tie rod for steering. You've got the ends of the lower suspension arms right there. You've got some round bits of styrene to represent fasteners. You've got sway bars going to the front here, and then you've got one running around the engine to the front. Not quite as many bumps as were in the Torino model, but I have no idea exactly what they should look like here. If we look up inside from the front, see I've added some curved pieces of plastic here, which are basically supposed to represent, this piece here is the cross member. Well, it should go up to the sides. What should not be in here is this thing on both sides. That actually should have been removed. I'm leaving in place just simply so I've got a decent place to glue my wheels to. One thing I'm not going to bother putting in is the coil springs. I think it would be difficult to see. I would like to put them in there, but I just don't think it's going to be worth it visually. At least this way, if you flip it over, you glance at it, you can see that there's a viable suspension, and certainly a whole lot better than what we had. I also ended up putting these two blocks in here just to act as engine mounts. They seem pretty huge though, but they're coming all the way from the frame to basically the block. So they're kind of unnecessary, but otherwise you've got the engines basically sitting there on top of the oil pan, or the oil pan sitting on the cross member, which of course is not right, because you'd never be able to take the oil pan out. So I've got some preliminary paint on my underframe here. There's a little bit of touching up left to do, and I'm probably going to give it a coat of dull coat. You can see all of the suspension parts have been painted. Certainly looks like they belong. And as I've said probably half a dozen times already, don't bother telling me that this isn't right for a 71 T-Bird. We do know that it had a front coil spring suspension. We do know what the part that AMT bothered to give us. I've basically extrapolated from there. And if it's not 100%, well, keep it yourself. So, I've put my exhaust headers on here because I want to make sure that they're going to line up with the pipes that they give us for the rest of the car. So you can see there's my engine plopped in place, and it already looks like they're coming out in different spots. Still need to do more painting on this piece. Look, it's all one piece. So drive shaft goes in there. And the funny thing is the rear suspension in terms of design is almost exactly the same on this 71 as it is on the one that Natasha's doing. So if we pop our engine in place here, you can see that one of them is actually darn close. The other one is way off. So I'm going to see if I can heat that with a soldering iron and bend it so that it will match. But I think all things considered, things are coming together here for the underside the way I'd like them to. So I've been doing some surgery on the body here, and these lugs, these cylindrical pieces, used to come all the way up to the top. So I've chopped them off as low as I dare because they do help locate the body onto the underframe. And then, if I turn it over, hopefully, you can see that I've got some pencil lines here. They represent the size of the radiator. So, coincidentally, the radiator comes down to basically the top of where I trimmed these off. So I'm going to basically cut this whole area out, and that will give me a clear spot to put the radiator, because as it stands right now, they would have you just glue it onto the inside. But given that there's almost probably a foot and a half in front of that, that would look pretty silly, because you'd just be looking at blankness there. So here we have Natasha's paper towel she wipes her brushes out on. She she doesn't want a new one, but I think it's about time for her to break down and get a new piece of paper towel for her brushes.
Maybe.
No, dedication of a new paper towel for Natasha's workbench. Momentous occasion. Now, that's either going to last for 6 to 8 months, or something horrible will happen to it and it'll be like 3 days from now.
Yeah, it's accurate.
Yeah.
Now, it's kind of hard to demonstrate right now, as I'm not finished. But with the doors, again, I started with the silver. I know it's messy, but what I did was I started with the silver, and then I put dark blue on in the middle. So I was kind of painting up to it. And eventually, I hope I will have a crisp silver line instead of this right now. Same with the handles. I think it's worse on the other door. So I'm just going to do another coat of silver right now to paint up to the marks where I've overlapped the silver again with the blue. And then I'll start with my light blue and go on to my medium blue. Still need to decide what I'm doing with the bottom part though. Right now I'm just trying to finish the interior. I've already shown the seats, I think, but just to clarify, I'm basically using 3 main blues, which are gloss light blue. This one is gloss dark blue, and I spilled some paint on this one, but this one is just normal gloss blue, so it's like medium. So as you can see, middle of the seats is a light one, outer is the medium. I put some silver onto the handles. I still need to touch it up a bit. For the bases of the seats, I used the medium blue, and so the seats are just going to kind of fit on there like this. The floor, I did another blue, which was this old Tester's flat blue, I think. Yeah, flat sea blue. So it all needed a couple coats on it, but I like the look of it, like carpet or something. Now, for this floor mat, I was trying to think of what color to do it. Originally, for some reason, I thought it was supposed to be flat black or something, but Dad clarified that. Now, this is just a bunch of other blues that we had laying around, and I was trying to pick which one, and I figured out that it's supposed to be kind of semi-gloss, but like a very dark blue. So I thought I would go with this last one, which is another sea blue, but it's Tamiya. I haven't painted it on yet, but I was just about to. For the doors, they're basically finished. Again, this is medium blue, dark blue, light gloss blue, and then this bottom part is basically the same color except flat. I haven't started the dashboard yet or nothing. I'm still trying to decide the colors. I was gonna try to finish the rest of the interior first, so I can try to balance the blues out. So it sort of kind of just goes on like that. So it continues the medium blue on top. I have just mixed up some brown and white to try to achieve the cream I want on the outside of the car. So what Dad suggested I do and what I did was we bought 2 new bottles of each, one of white and one of brown. So basically I just made the white the cream. I didn't pour anything out. So that's what it looks like. It's hard to see, but I did a before and after of the original white. I have here on this sprue the cream I made. It's basically just an off-white, a bit of brown, with Tamiya gloss white, put a bit of yellow, and just kept it that way. So that's so if you look at the sprue, that'd be the like normal white, and the steering wheel part would be the cream. So I did the steering wheel the same cream color as I'm going to do the outside, the body. I haven't spray painted that yet. I still have some work to do yet. I'm putting panel wash on these parts of the dashboard to try to make them look more realistic, because I don't like the look of just pure chrome. And I'm just detailing more on the interior right now. Just done that, touching it up a bit. So I'm ready to spray paint now. I glued the doors in because they were able to open, and I didn't care about them opening. You know, I guess it could be sort of like a toy, but I didn't want that. So I cleaned up the body a bit. Checked to see the parts which I had to spray paint, which includes, the main body, the hood, and the roof, because I'm having it closed. But the most important part before we spray paint is cleaning it off, right? Getting rid of all the grease, which I usually forgot about and just go ahead and do it. Then there's like grease marks and it doesn't stick. So after I clean them off, after I dip them in, clean them, let them dry, wipe them off, I was going to prime it with I think it's flat white, and then I'll paint my cream on. So I haven't really done much on the body since I last did a clip. I basically just glued in the seats, touched up some parts. So it's in now. There were some helpful like holes, and the holes would go into the pegs. So I just like slathered it with Tamiya glue, which isn't here anymore. But yeah, that's like my favorite glue because it's really thick and you don't see it anyway, so it doesn't matter. Um, I'm just putting panel wash on the grill right now. Again, I don't like when it's just pure chrome, so that will take more coats yet. My body has been primed. Again, we just did it flat white. So my next step is going to be painting it the cream. Dad's a little ahead of me regarding the body though. He has already painted it, did it in metallic blue, like I'm sure he said in his part. But in terms of the interior, he hasn't even started. So yeah, I guess we're taking our time. But I feel like that's it for this video. And thanks for watching and keep on modeling.